Hi, everybody. My name is Emily, and this is Kitty. We're so excited to be talking with you guys today, but just wanted to give you a heads up that this is a pre-recorded presentation, so you're speaking to past Emily and Kitty now, but we will be on live and in person over Zoom at the very end to do some question and answers. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to jump in. Bear with me a moment here. All right. So welcome to Developing with Disney TV Animation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kitty Walsh, and I'm Director of Development for Disney Junior, Disney's preschool content brand and channel. I started at Disney as an assistant and have grown with the team these last 5 to 6 years. And before Disney, I worked in the not so preschool friendly world of prison documentaries, but that's a story for another day. I am passionately driven to collaborate with new storytellers like yourselves in the animation community and develop heartfelt, fun, and impactful series that speak to every child. Most recently, I was a development executive on Disney Junior's Mickey's Tale of Two Witches, The Chicken Squad, and Eureka, and have been working on some exciting unannounced shows and movies for Disney Junior coming soon.
And I'm Emily. I'm the development manager over at Disney TVA. I've been working as a creative executive at Disney for about 2.5 years now. But prior to that, I was actually working in development production on shows like The Ghost of Molly McGee and KIF and a bunch of other stuff that's going to get announced soon that I can't wait to talk to you guys about. And before that, I was actually in production on Tangled, the series. So I've been at Disney about 5 years now. I love animation more than anything else. And it's been a blast working with creators to help bring their shows to life and to share them with the world. And to kick things off, here's our mission statement. Disney Television Animation is a creative community of visual storytellers who celebrate and embrace the magic of Disney.
And for more than 35 years, we've been doing just that. From the very first series, which started it all, The Gummy Bears, to our most recently premiered shows, Monsters at Work and Marvel's Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Disney Television Animation and Disney Junior, in partnership with TVA and some of our other amazing animation studio partners, have created some of the most revered series and characters that have truly stood the test of time. And we've got plenty more to come. I'm sure all of you can identify some of your favorite Disney animated shows here.
I definitely can. Now let's talk about our audience. Knowing your audience is very, very important. And here at Disney TVA, we are constantly learning about who they are and what their lives are like. It's no secret that our world is changing every day, and kids today are being shaped by these cultural shifts and realities around them. With greater access to media and closer relationships with parents, kids are becoming less shielded. Many kids have seen parents and loved ones lose jobs or struggle financially, and more kids are living in homes with multi-generational family members than ever before. Kids today also aren't colorblind. They have a higher level of awareness for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and are looking for it to be reflected in the content they watch. These are the realities we take into consideration as we look for stories with authentic and relatable points of view. Access, opportunity, and empowerment defines this generation. They're taking matters into their own hands and are looking towards a future filled with limitless possibility. And we found that if we want to attract the attention of viewers, young and old, we need great comedy. Kids of all ages and genders are looking for shows that make them laugh. When writing comedy, we like to use multi-layered jokes. By doing this, we ensure our comedy is funny for kids and their parents.
And just a quick note for Disney Junior. For Disney Junior, please know that physical comedy is king. Preschoolers will not necessarily get your layered jokes, though they may be appreciated by their parents. Always have a laugh ready for our youngest viewers if you want to include layered jokes in Disney Junior shows. As you know, Disney Junior shows are for them, not for us.
Despite all of these differences from previous generations, there are certain universal truths and stories that always resonate despite who the audience is. Like stories about friendship and family, growing up, fish out of water stories, following your dreams, with great power comes great responsibility, and many, many more.
Okay, so first let's talk about our audiences. At Disney Junior, our target demo is for 2 to 7-year-olds and their families, but our core audience is 2 to 5-year-olds.
And with Disney Channel, and Disney Plus. Obviously, a lot has changed in our world over the past year, but a big change that's happened to us at Disney TVA is that we're now creating content for Disney Channel and Disney Plus. So let's get into what makes these platforms different and what is staying the same. At Disney Channel, our primary audience is 6 to 11-year-olds, though our focus is really that 9 to 11 and honestly, even that 9 to 14-year-old audience. And that's really because kids are aging up in the content they watch, meaning that we're seeing our 6 to 8-year-olds engaging more with content that has typically been considered older. While in Disney Plus, we strive to make content that is family co-viewing, meaning that shows should appeal to the whole family, both kids and adults without kids. Our content needs are always evolving though, based on multiple external and internal factors. However, this has kind of been the most consistent. Disney Channel is kid-forward episodic comedy. Like I mentioned, 9 to 11-year-old kids are the primary audience for our shows on channel. And episodic means that viewers should be able to jump in and engage at any point in your series. Disney Plus, on the other hand, is serialized, high concept, co-viewing stories. Kids, parents, and adults without kids are the audience for these shows. Content has arcs that encourage repetitive engagement viewing and appointment viewing, which means if new episodes come out on Friday night, you're there every Friday night watching the episodes. And we're also not only limited to 11 minutes, we're able to expand our shows a little bit. Oh, Kitty, you're muted. Oh no.
Sorry about that. So now that you know our target demos, let's talk about our brand pillars for Disney Junior and Disney TVA. First, we'll start with Disney Junior. So Disney Junior, where the magic begins. Disney Junior is often one of the first, if not the first, connection a child has to the Disney brand. And that's quite a responsibility. Our collective mantra is this Walt Disney quote: "We keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. And this is the spirit in which we develop." Here are the Disney Junior pillars that collectively make our creative North Star, what we look for when developing a series. Let's break them down. Aspirational characters that reflect our diverse world. Doctors, detectives, pirates, princesses, and also the clubhouse. More than anything, Disney Junior is known for aspirational and fun characters that connect with young kids. Have you heard the phrase, "If you can see it, you can be it"? We want to give kids opportunities to see characters in roles that they perhaps hadn't seen before and empower them to take up their scepter, stethoscope, or detective gear and save the day and maybe save the world. As you create your own protagonist, think about the questions: what does your character do? And is that role understandable and aspirational to a 4-year-old? Doc McStuffins is a caring and smart kid doctor who puts on her magic stethoscope and fixes broken toys. Could you crystallize your hero in a similar way? Elements of magic or fantasy. So Disney Junior focuses on magical storytelling that transports young kids to another world that they truly want to be a part of, or inspire them to find the magic within themselves. We aim to fulfill their wishes to rule a kingdom like Elena of Avalor, be in a monster hit rock band with Vampirina, and go on a mission to help pets in need with Pugs, Bingo, and Rolly. Now, not every story needs literal whiz bang boom magic. Some of our shows focus on smaller, more grounded magical elements. Fancy Nancy and Muppet Babies utilize imagination as the source of magic in their world. And Puppy Dog Pals, Bingo and Rolly, are able to travel to Antarctica to get ice cubes for their owner all in the span of 11 minutes and without any flight attendant questioning their presence on the airplane. It's magic. Signature music that defines the world. Music is a crucial part of the Disney DNA. Could you imagine Frozen without Let It Go? Nope. We look at music and songs as a necessity to push our story forward in every series and to be an extension of that particular series world. For Mira, Royal Detective, our Disney Junior series that is set in a magical Indian-inspired land called Jaipur, Mira and her friends break out into big Indian dance numbers set to a variety of new songs. And for kid vampire Vampirina, she doesn't just play songs on a ukulele, she rocks out on her spookulele, with Transylvanian pop sensation The Scream Girls. These songs will live with our young viewers in the show, in the car ride to school, at birthday parties, in bedtime routines, you name it. Rich storytelling with heart. It goes without saying that we want to tell stories that make you feel something. For our young kid viewers, Disney Junior stories connect with and reflect their first milestones in life. Making a friend, trying again to learn something, tying their shoe for the first time, etc. while still speaking to universal values both kids and adults, young and old, hold close. Treat others with kindness, be an advocate for what's right, and love without prejudice. Our storytelling has fun and comedy, but at the core of every show we do, there's a clear emotional purpose. And our last pillar, social and emotional learning. So when I say I work in development for the preschool audience, people may think that means I'm teaching kids 1, 2, 3s and their ABCs. As a brand, Disney Junior is first and foremost focused on social and emotional learning, presenting relationships and scenarios that relate to our young audience. These are stories that inspire kids to grow by understanding and managing their emotions, showing empathy for others, and approaching challenges with heroism and resilience. Now that you know the creative pillars that fuel our content on Disney Junior, let's talk about Disney Channel and Disney Plus with Emily.
Thanks, Kitty. Now we'd like to move on to our Disney TVA creative pillars. These pillars were a collaboration of several creative executives and show talent here at TVA. And we found that this is really for the best way for us to connect with our audience and for our shows to stand out as a brand. You can think of this as a recipe for a Disney TVA show. And we run all of our pitches through these filters. So I'm going to break each of them down for you. First and foremost is comedy with heart. Great comedy transcends boundaries, and humor is integral to our shows. If it's not funny, it's just not going to work for our audience. Our brand of comedy is born from well-defined characters. Jokes will be indicative of their personalities and come from their interpersonal relationships within the world of the show. We want sophisticated comedy. So if you plan on doing a fart joke, it better be the most sophisticated fart joke I've ever heard. And the heart of Disney humor means that we are not mean-spirited, crass, or even sarcastic. Our shows, we want the audiences to laugh with our characters and not at them, unless they want us to. Authentic points of view through inclusive storytelling. This sets a show apart from the rest, making it both memorable and universally relatable. Kids should feel both seen and heard by our content, so it must come from an authentic place. Research shows that kids are positively impacted by seeing themselves on screen, and adults too, for that matter. This absolutely applies to race and ethnicity, but inclusive storytelling also encompasses even more than this. It's unique family dynamics, neurodiversity, socioeconomic diversity, difference of ability, gender identity and expression, and loads more of specific experiences true to childhood. Relatable and surprising characters and worlds. A simple breakdown for this is an ordinary character in an extraordinary world, or an extraordinary character in an ordinary world. Our research finds that kids love familiarity, but they crave novelty. So this means when we're considering projects, we're looking for what grounded and relatable points of view your characters are bringing into the new and exciting worlds they enter into, like Anne from Amphibia. And on the flip side, we're also looking at how extraordinary characters change the world around them and bring excitement or new learnings into everyone's lives, like Cricket and Big City Greens. Fantastical wish fulfillment. I'm sure you hear this and you automatically think Disney magic, and I don't blame you. That is a part of our brand, and there's a lot of magic to what we do. But fantastical wish fulfillment is more than just magic, wishes, dreams, fantasies, all of that. It's more than that for us. It can come from a loyal group of friends you'd love to hang out with, like Recess, or the adventurous and loving family you've always wanted, like DuckTales. And it can even be about finding a place where you finally fit in, like Lou's and Owl House. This is the type of wish fulfillment that appeals to our demographic. And finally, stories that matter. This is your time to show us why this matters to you and what is truly important about your project. We have a saying in development: what's your show about, but what is it really about? For example, on the surface, Amphibia is about a teen girl getting sucked into a frog world and navigating her way through it. But in reality, Amphibia is about growing up and evolving into being a better person. We can bring this back to who the audience is and also to who you were as a kid. What matters to them and what mattered to you? These are the stories we're looking for. Our viewers want to experience fun, meaningful, and engaging content. We want to tell stories that make our audience feel seen and heard, but will also help them see things from a new point of view. In our experience, we find that when we tell stories that matter to us, they will matter to our viewers.
Regarding our pillars, it's important that you don't try to retrofit your story into them. Your project should naturally fit with our brand. And with that in mind, let's discuss what we look for in a pitch. Okay, well, we look for your creative vision. So you have an idea for a show and you have an opportunity to pitch to us. We want to know your creative vision. What is your show really about? Not just what happens in your show, but the purpose of your show. What are you trying to say? Think back to Emily's example on Amphibia with Anne evolving into a better person. And themes. Having central themes is crucial. What bigger concepts will you convey in your series? And what will the audience learn? Visual development. You don't have to be an artist to pitch a show, but it is helpful to have some ideas about style and visual tone. We don't create things that just look cool. We're influenced by the world of the show and the story. So you should be able to explain the why behind your style thoughts. But know that we also have a fabulous visual development team at TVA who will help us hone in on the look of your show. Core characters and relationships. With core characters, you should know who they are and the nature of their relationships to one another. We'll dive deeper into character shortly, but making sure you have all the relationships planned out is key. What do they mean to each other? How is your protagonist different from other leading Disney characters? Is your protagonist relatable to our audience? And original stories. So original stories mean your stories. We do not take pitches for Disney IP unless we explicitly ask you to do one. We want stories unique to you and your personal experience. And think back to those pillars we just discussed. Okay, so in order for us to option an idea, we need a pitch Bible. A pitch Bible, for those who don't know, is a 3 to 5 page document that tells us everything we need to know about your show, and it should include the following: a logline or brief premise line. Loglines are incredibly important when it comes to pitching. Ever heard the term elevator pitch? It's the refinement of your idea down to a short and snappy sales line. If you only had 30 seconds to sell your show, what would you say? A successful logline should explain what the show is in about 1 to 2 sentences. Episode premises. You should include a section of sample episodes, and each one should demonstrate the core concept of your show and feature your main character. We also want to see variety in the kinds of stories you can tell, and know that's not just a problem of the week show. Is there an emotional range to the episode ideas? An exciting pilot story is great, but we as development executives are thinking, what does episode 5 look like? What does episode 25 look like? This is the best way to get an idea of the strength of your concept. Character descriptions. So who are your main characters? As mentioned previously, include descriptions of them and their relationships to one another, both literal relationships, brother, sister, best friends, neighbors, but also personal relationships. They're friends because they dislike each other because, and it never hurts to make a chart. Visuals. So we don't need to see a fully visually developed project. Play to your strengths and include what you feel helps sells your idea. If you can't draw, include a mood board with pictures or art that inspires you. We know that things will change as your project moves forward in development.
Now that we've talked about what we specifically look for in a pitch Bible, let's talk more conceptually about what we look for in a project. The two most important things for us at Disney are character and story. As executives, when we're reviewing pitches and even giving notes on our current development projects, we always ask ourselves these questions. How do your characters resonate with the audience? Think back to our inclusive storytelling pillar. Is this a character you would have hoped to have seen as a kid? What are your characters' wants and needs? And how do those conflict? That friction is how all great stories start. How will the characters grow throughout the series and what will they learn? But to figure out each character's personality, we like to give them a little test. It's called the lemon test. I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, when life gives you lemons. Well, Alex Hirsch used this as a test when exploring Dipper, Mabel, and Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls. What would each of these characters do with a lemon? Well, Dipper would take the lemons, squeeze out the juice, and use it to make invisible ink to write secret messages. Mabel would knit the lemons cute little sweaters in case they got cold, and Grunkle Stan would take the lemons, dip them in orange paint, and sell them as mutant oranges for twice the price.
All right, moving on to story. So here are important questions we'll often ask in pitches, but you should also be asking these as you craft your own stories. What do you have to say and why is it relevant to our audience? Is it funny? Does it have heart? We want your show to make us laugh, but also have an emotional impact on the audience. Is your show episodic with standalone episodes that we don't need to follow, or serialized with a longer overarching series arc? How long are the episodes? These last two questions are a little more technical, but affect how we look at your series as a whole and how you write your episodes. So for Disney Junior, we look for 11-minute or 7-minute episodes typically. And for Disney Channel, Disney Plus, it's around 11-minute to 22-minute episodes.
Now that we've talked about what we look for in a pitch, we want to talk about what we look for in you. Here's just a few things that we look for in the talent we collaborate with. First off is your level of professional experience. While we do believe great ideas can come from anywhere and anybody, it's not just about having a great idea. We need to know that you can navigate the development process and manage others. Many of you watching this may just be starting out in the industry, so we understand that you may not have had the opportunities to garner that experience just yet. But we also want you all to understand that when you are pitching a show to Disney TVA, we do expect that you will be able to run that show eventually. So what is your level of experience? You may be an amazing storyboard artist or a staff writer, but have you ever led a team? Can you work with higher leadership like creative executives? Do you really know what it takes to make a show? If not, work on gathering that experience. Don't worry, we will still be here. Your ability to convey your distinct point of view. Now, this is your creative vision that Kitty spoke about before. Are you able to effectively communicate your vision both in your work, but also to those working with you, like your creative executives, but also those working with you in development, like your editor, your storyboard artists, your writers, and so on. Know your strengths and weaknesses. You do not have to be an expert at everything, but you do need to know where you need support. So don't be afraid to admit you don't know something.
Self-starters. So we don't develop for you. Like we've said, it's your creative vision that will move a show forward. We are the North Star guiding you home, but you are the captain of your own ship. And ability to pivot in development. Change is the only constant in the development process, and creating a show is no easy task. It takes a village. You more than likely will be asked to adjust and sometimes change aspects of your show while in development based on various external and internal factors. As executives, we're here to help you navigate this crazy journey and make your show the best it can be for Disney TVA and Disney Junior. And to some pitching tips. To make sure you put your best foot forward, we've got some advice for you. While we wrote these to be specific to TVA, we feel like these are probably universal. So while some of you may be veterans at pitching, for those who are just starting out, here is a quick rundown of what to expect when you meet with us. So we typically meet for 30 minutes. The first 5 minutes will be people being late, tech problems, especially over Zoom, and introductions. Please tell us about yourself. Then we get into the actual pitch for the next 30 minutes, followed by 5 minutes of questions. So be sure to have answers to the questions we mentioned earlier about character and story. And we also may ask questions during your pitch, but please don't be thrown off. Pitches are a conversation. And then 5 minutes of wrap up and goodbyes. So now that we're all working from home, here's some additional tips. The timing is basically the same, but please familiarize yourself with the program. We use Zoom, test the technology, it's unpredictable, and always have a backup plan. And even if it's a writer-driven pitch, we highly recommend having some visual aid. Even if it's just a PowerPoint that has your highlights or some art that was pulled from the internet, it's easier for us to keep track of everything. And on that, please don't have any text-heavy slides where you're reading everything off of it. And make sure to introduce yourself and the team up at top and what role they serve.
Here's some more pitching tips for you guys. Do your homework. Know what we have on the air and whether your show would fit. Know our brand, which if Kitty and I are doing our jobs right, you should know by the end of this presentation. But also know if your show idea exists on other channels. For example, we are currently not taking any pitches for a show about a sponge who's best friends with a sea star. Lead with your personal story. This is actually really important for us. We want to know, why are you the one to tell the story? What does it mean to you? And how do you personally connect with these characters? And maybe how has your own life inspired this show? This all speaks to our stories that matter and our authentic points of view pillar. Make sure we understand that you have a distinct point of view for this project. Also, it's just really fun to get to know you. Don't come unprepared. Please practice your pitch. Make sure you are hitting your most vital points, and please don't get too into the weeds on anything. Please don't come in with any consumer products plans. For us, it's putting the cart before the horse. If the concept, the world, the characters work, we'll have time to figure out the books, the toys, the theme park rides way later down the line. And plus, Disney has highly qualified departments that are dedicated to this. So we as executives are really only interested in your story. Leave behinds, obviously, we're all working from home now. In the past, we would accept physical materials, but in this Zoom-centered world, please have a PDF of your pitch and any take-home documents available to send to us after we've met with you. We use these to share with our team and keep in mind as we're reviewing your pitch. Please be patient. We get a lot of pitches. It may take us some time to sort through everything, but also please don't be afraid to follow up. We really do appreciate those emails that are like, hey, just want to check in, but also we do appreciate your patience. And finally, keep at it. You are going to hear no a lot. To give you some perspective, on average, we're interested in about 1 out of 100 pitches we hear. So even if the pitch doesn't work out the first time, take what you've learned from the experience and work on your next great idea. Our door is always open and everything is experience. And with that, Kitty and I want to thank you guys so much for listening in on our presentation. Again, this is past Kitty and Emily, and you will see future, or I guess present, future now, but present when we're there, Kitty and Emily when we do the Q&A. So without further ado, we're going to do some technical transition and move over to that. And thank you again. We'll see you in just a minute.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Clearly this is us in the future because my hair is longer and we're both wearing different clothes.
Hi, CTN. We're so excited to be here and we look forward to answering your questions. So if you have some questions, please just drop them in the Q&A box. And I guess we'll just get started, right, Emily?
Yeah, let's do it. Kitty, I have a really important question for you.
Okay.
I watched this whole presentation and now I'm like super ready to pitch. Like, how can I just send you my pitch?
Can you send me my pitch? So unfortunately, you cannot. It is the Walt Disney Studios company policy not to accept unsolicited pitches. So what that means is please don't cold send us your ideas, your materials without us requesting them. And if you're looking to pitch, we encourage you to reach out through your reps. Okay, so if you do not have a rep, we prefer you to reach out to us to set up general meetings. We want to get to know you first before you pitch and to get a sense of your leadership abilities. And, and potentially maybe you're just not ready to pitch quite yet, but at least you've made the introduction and that's the first step.
I will say too, we always recommend having general first for all of the reasons Kitty stated, but as you can probably get a sense from that presentation, our mandates, our wants, our needs are changing all of the time. So we always love meeting with people, getting to know them, but also saying, hey, this is what we're looking for at this very moment. This is what we want more of. And it's always great for you to take away any of that information, maybe work a little bit more on your project and then bring it back to us.
Great. Okay, so how much experience do I need in the industry to pitch a show? Emily, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. There is no set level of experience. There's no, you have to have been working for 10, 15, 20 years to pitch a show. It's all about individual experience. As we kind of talked about in the presentation, when you come in and pitch a show, we assume you can run that show. And that doesn't just mean having a great creative vision and a great show idea. It means, can you lead a team? Can you work with people? Can you navigate the hurdles of development? Because development is a long process. And if you don't have that level of experience yet, if you haven't been a director, if you haven't been an art director, if you haven't been a producer, whatever it may be, one thing that we do at Disney, both at TVA and at Junior, is if you have a great idea, but you're lacking those leadership skills, we are big fans of creating partnerships early on in the development process. So if it is your first time running a show, we always have the option to match you with maybe a more experienced showrunner to work with you, mentor you, and be a part of your crew.
Yeah, I will just add, we do those partnerships, but it's just, I think it's just good to just know also all the pieces of production and what goes into a show, whether that's in meeting with others in the industry or having that. I mean, obviously that hands-on experience is ideal and what we most want, because at the end of the day, then we know you can run the show, right? That you are supported, but also that you have that experience behind you to help you navigate the Disney system.
This is a question for specifically Disney Junior, but I think it can apply to TVA too, but I'll ask you anyway, Kitty. Do you think a show where characters are differently abled or have different disabilities would be a good fit for Disney Junior?
Absolutely. And I think we spoke about this in our panel about, wanting to reflect characters and worlds that connect with kids and connects with families. And that's all families, that's all kids. And we haven't done that yet, right? We're trying to bring in more creatives, trying to bring in more show ideas that really speak to those kids authentically and reflect their worlds for Disney Channel, Disney Junior, Disney Plus. So yes, if you have a differently abled protagonist, that's fantastic. I just would add that, like, as long as it fits in with those other pillars that speak to the Disney brand of, heartfelt storytelling, magical storytelling, specifically for Disney Junior, then, if you have all of those ingredients, then hopefully it's a really strong show to pitch to us. But yes, we're always interested in depicting different characters at the center of our shows who we haven't had before.
Mm-hmm. And the same goes for Disney TVA. Absolutely.
Great. Let's see, more questions. I don't know if you have the answer to this one, Emily, but many recent story-driven shows on channel like Owl House and Amphibious seem like they're much more ideally suited for being Plus originals. Is it possible for a series to transition platforms, or are they locked in?
That's a great question. Disney Plus is still a relatively new platform. It just celebrated its 2nd birthday last week. So there's no definition yet as to what is, gonna stay in one place and only stay in one place. I will say is you've kind of already seen shows like The Ghost of Molly McGee and Big City Greens and Owl House do also have a home on Disney Channel. And that's kind of all I can say at that point for now, but you can watch all the shows on Disney Plus. We consider them Disney shows. And I think regardless, Plus channel for us at Disney TVA and at Disney Junior, regardless of where it streams, where it ends up, where you can watch it, they're all Disney shows to us. I like this question. What does a development creative executive do, or what does a development creative executive day-to-day look like at Disney? Do you want to start, Kitty?
Sure. I mean, every day is different. Right now, we are juggling multiple projects. I have around 20 projects in development so I have multiple meetings throughout the day with the creators, with our visual development team at TVA, a fantastic team led by Sam Kalis, and various company meetings with our lines of business of, franchise partners. They're the ones that help, manage like when shows become toys, and marketing and various entities of the Walt Disney Company. So it's really changes day to day, but for the core development executive duties, reading pitches, reading scripts, giving notes, meeting new talent, connecting with talent that we've known before, seeing what they're up to. It's a big people person job, so there's a lot of connecting and hearing what's out there, and also, putting your strategy hat on of what are we not covering, that we may have multitudes of projects and but there's always going to be the white space, right? Like who's the character we're not showing, what's the world we haven't shown, what's that family unit that we really like want to crack and like show to kids to connect with them. So it's multitudes of things, but for the development hat on, it's mostly notes, I will say.
Yeah, a lot of reading, a lot of notes. I always say, like, I feel like my day is broken up into 3 pieces, and it's not even like every day is completely different than the last. I will even see like maybe my weeks are divided up into three categories. It's focusing on the projects that I'm working on, and similar to Kitty, I have a big handful of projects, and all of our projects are at different phases. Projects that are closer to their delivery, closer to their pilot green light delivery. I'm on those projects every day. I'm reading something every day. I'm communicating with the creators every day. And then some projects that we've just picked up that are a little bit earlier on, like that's once, every few weeks we'll have a conversation or read something. So it's like focusing on those projects. And then it's also, as Kitty said, taking pitches and reviewing materials for pitches. I hear about 3 to 5 pitches a week. Kitty, I'm sure it's probably even more for you, right? And then meeting new talent. A lot of what we do is meeting new writers, directors, artists to see who can we bring into the development fold with us and who's got some good ideas. It definitely, I cannot emphasize it enough. This is a job for extroverts. It is a people person job.
It's
a ton of fun.
It is, but it's funny because I'm such an introvert. But what's interesting about development, and what I think is a good distinction between what goes on in development and what goes on in current series, is development, we're like making the recipe for what that show is going to be. So there's a lot of, not problem solving, but thinking about, like, as Emily was mentioning, like, who are those partners in this development process? Like, who are those creators that would be great together? Who's that art director that would make this project that you're working on sing and really flesh out the world building? And there's a lot of that kind of world building thinking, which both Emily and I love, and that is a big part of what we do as well. Okay, so how long is the development process at Disney TVA?
That's a great question. Long. I'm kidding. It depends on the project. It really truly depends on the project. Some projects, I will say the average is anywhere between 2 to 3 years from basically getting that first Bible to show green light. But sometimes they take longer, sometimes they're quicker. Molly McGee, we started development, like really development on it in like 2018, and it aired in October. So that's kind of how you go from first pilot development to getting the show on the air. So it's about 3 years. And of course, a show like Molly McGee, Bill and Bob had been developing on their own for years and years before that. So just the process of once you get in and start working, anywhere between, I would say, 3 to 5 years sometimes. What about you, Kitty?
Yeah, it's really just dependent on the project and also the needs of the channel and the company at the time as well, because certain projects will move forward quickly because we see an opportunity or it's lining up with something else that Walt Disney, the company is doing. But yeah, 2 to 5 years is pretty standard. And for us, we have, instead of a pilot being produced as part of development for us, we actually do an animation test and a storybook, because for preschoolers reading to them, that's the way we like to test our show ideas. So that's also just in of itself, like after you've developed the project, that process of making something to test with kids and parents is at least 8 months.
Yeah, actually, that's I don't know if it was a question that was asked, but I think you bring up a good point. Wow, you bring up a good point, Kitty. I did 2 panels today. You can see it in my brain. Of how our development process works. So there's basically like 2 phases of development. There is this pre-pilot phase that Kitty spoke to, where you're doing like the actual development on your project. It's where you're doing your viz dev, you're fleshing out your Bible, you're working on your pilot story idea. And basically that first checkpoint, or that first like finish line that you cross in development, is for a pilot green light. Once you get that pilot green light, you enter your pilot production phase. And that's really when you hit the ground running. That is when you are, so for Disney TVA, so for our Disney Channel and Disney Plus shows, we typically do, and every project's a little bit different, but we typically do a pilot animatic. So we board out the full first episode. Or not necessarily the first episode, we board out the first episode of the show. And then we also do a full animation test. So we do full viz dev, we get full character designs, we work with an animation studio, and we get what we call like a look of picture back. And so with Junior, they do the storybook instead of the animatic, because ultimately at the end of that pilot process, we do focus group testing with kids and sometimes their parents.
Yeah, and for animatic for preschoolers, it's mostly just why isn't it colored in? So we don't do animatics, but we do fully animated tests that are like mini, like a short. Like if you made a short of your project, what would that story look like within 3 minutes?
Yeah. For context, if you are familiar, I know I'm talking about Molly McGee a lot, but it's our most recent show. If you're familiar with the Ghost of Molly McGee, our pilot was the Unnatural, which was the softball episode, but our animation test was in the pilot of the series, which is the first time that Molly and Scratch meet. So we kind of did two different pieces to test our show, which is cool. And now back to the actual questions, because we just went on a tangent, but I feel like it was good to clarify. Let's see. How did you become, I'm assuming this is, how did you become a development creative executive? I'm assuming it just says development creative. What is the entrance position if I'm interested in what you do? I mean, I guess we can answer for both, for creative executive and for showrunner. Kitty, I don't know if you want to start.
Sure. So I always wanted to be in animation. And when I came out of college, I just started interviewing like crazy to be an assistant at Disney, Nickelodeon, DreamWorks, anywhere I could get my foot in the door. Got a lot of no's, many no's. And finally, you know, after I'd say at least like 11 rejections, I got in at Disney with Alyssa Sapphire, who was my boss, and she was fabulous. And I got to assist her, Daiki Mishira, and Laurie Mazzillo 5 years ago. So I started as an executive assistant and then grew with the team and then made my way into development when that became an opportunity. So for me, it was just knocking on a lot of doors, but entry level was executive assistant on a creative team.
And for me, I actually kind of weirdly started my development journey. I was an intern at Frederator Studios, which is the studio that helped do the pilot for, or helped create Adventure Time, Fairly Odd Parents, all of that. And Frederator does a lot of development. So that was kind of my first exposure to development. It was something I'd always been wanting to get back to while I interned there. But my first like real job in the industry was I was a PA or a production assistant on Tangled, the series. So I started in production and you know, didn't quite know that I wanted to be a creative executive. I didn't know it was a job that you could have. I knew what creative executives were. I just didn't know it was something I could do. It wasn't until I started working as a production coordinator in development that I saw our amazing creative executives, like Kitty was an executive when I was in development, come in and work on our shows. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. So I was able to make that transition. But yeah, I think if you're looking to be a creative executive, a lot of us start as executive assistants or in production, but there's really no wrong path. And I think the same goes if you are looking to be a showrunner. There is no wrong path. Most of our showrunners do start as storyboard revisionists or writer's assistants, taking the writing or directing path, but there is no right or wrong way to get to being a creative executive or a showrunner.
Okay, so after hearing a multitude of pitches within a day, what do you tend to remember or take away by any of the particular pitches?
I love that question.
Ooh, I have to think of it if you have an answer quickly.
I feel like regardless of, I mean, of course, if your show has a really catchy like hook or a log line, like that sticks in my head all day. And actually that is a great thing. If we talk about the elevator pitch, like really work on that elevator pitch, really talk about what the hook of your show is going to be. Because if I hear your pitch and I love it and I'm excited about it, I'm going to want to go to my coworkers and my boss and call them and be like, look, I just heard this great pitch. It's about, and then you just, if it's easy and it's quick and it's immediately catchy to get that log line, like that's the best way to do it. But other than that, honestly, the creative, if somebody comes in and they have a project that is really, really personal to them and has a really unique story that we haven't heard before, or from that perspective, that's what sticks with me as well.
Yeah, it's the same for me. And I will say that we've had pitches come in where the creator really made an impression. And although we didn't take that pitch, we would go to that creator for whether we had an internally developed idea or if there was a book property we were looking for takes on. I mean, we're going to remember you. And I think it's important to always just be, I know this is so like, I don't know, just like be yourself, but it's true. Like be yourself. And for us, it's about connecting and getting to know you and why you want to make that particular show that you want to make, and also to know if the creative that you're presenting, if it has a purpose. That's what I remember, because you can stick a lot of fun things together and tick a lot of boxes that would be like, ooh, that'd be a great toy. Ooh, that would be a great ride at Disneyland. But at the end of the day, if you don't know what you want to say with the show, I think for Disney specifically, it's not going to be as sticky for me as an executive, because I'm looking for what do you want to say? Because we want to put out stuff that has purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Sticky is such a good word. Having a sticky pitch is
Sticky pitch.
sticky pitch. This is a question a little bit about pitching IP, which we touched on, but we can explain a little bit more. But it's how do pitches for previous Disney properties get processed, such as the Mickey Mouse shorts or DuckTales?
Yeah, I mean, so we're a huge company. There's a lot of Disney IP out there, and there are a lot of business partners and various divisions of part of the Walt Disney Company that touch those characters. So for the most part, we can't accept pitches on Disney IP unless we specifically go to you and say, hey, we want to do a Mickey Mouse series. What's your idea? So unfortunately, if you have a great idea for Moana or Hercules or whatever it is that you're passionate about, we cannot take that pitch if we haven't asked for it. But what you can do is, if we're meeting with you, and we usually ask this question anyway, but it's good to let us know if there are certain characters or properties that just make your heart sing, that you would love to tell that story, or you feel you have something to add to that particular Disney character. Because if those opportunities do come up, and when they do, we'll know, oh, okay, so this person like loves that character and has like a great idea. They just, obviously can't share it right now. And then we know, oh, okay, let's reach out to them to see if they have something that they want to do with this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it exactly. And I think it really is, we can't take the pitches, but there's always kind of circulating interest for certain properties. So it is helpful for us. I know Kitty mentioned earlier, even when you pitch, even if we don't like the property, but we really like you, like that is a great way to get in and say like, oh, so-and-so pitched a project that wasn't right for us, but it felt really similar to like, X Disney property. Like maybe they would want to come in and pitch on this project. So that's really how these conversations happen. It's very natural. It's also a lot of right place, right time. So,
let's see. Oh, your recent kids shows go into some dark moments. How do you balance the lighter moments with dark moments without tipping into one way too much?
Oh, that is an interesting question. Well, we are always a part of the Disney brand, and going back into Disney's like deep history, our shows, our movies, our animated movies, our live action movies have always touched on things that might seem like dark or scary. I mean, even if you go back to Snow White, like Snow White is about a girl who just wants friends and companionship, and she has a horrible life. And also the scene in the forest is terrifying, but you balance it with heartwarming characters, with magic, with music. And that's always kind of how it is. We're always trying to balance, because that's the thing, is we're trying to create shows, especially for our kid audience, that they can engage with and relate to. And we know that life isn't always like sparkles and sunshine and musical numbers, although we like to pretend it is. It's kind of nice to do that.
And for Disney Junior, I will just jump in because we are dealing with a younger audience, so we don't go there like the way that older content can. And we have to remember that these are 2 to 5-year-olds. Half of our audience are in diapers, so we want to create a safe space for them where it's not devoid of conflict, but everything is done in a way that's super relatable. So even if it's a magical, villainous character, or it's Spidey against Green Goblin, there's stakes. The stakes are relatable to our young kids, so that it doesn't ever feel like someone's life is in danger. But there is something equally, for a kid, like the train full of toys that are supposed to go to the neighborhood or whatever it is, like that's the stakes, and that's relatable to them. So I will say that, like, yes, dark for Disney, but Disney Junior is pretty safe space.
Yeah. And I guess dark is, it's not even necessarily dark. I guess it's like realistic and stakes, as Kitty spoke of, as we on the Disney Channel and Disney Plus side are looking to create content that is more engaging for older audiences. Sometimes you're able to talk about some, I won't even say dark, but like deeper and more sophisticated topics. But again, balancing it with that humor, that levity, and that optimism. It's always part of the Disney brand.
See any other questions?
This question, we don't really have an answer for it, but I think it's an interesting one of the projects in development, what percentage makes it to green light. There's no like statistical number of what your odds are in development. Development, as we said, is a long process, and you do encounter a lot of hurdles. And we spoke in the presentation about pivoting. You will be approached with several pivots. Our jobs as creative executives is to help you along the way and help you with that pivot. But there is no rhyme or reason, or I guess not rhyme or reason, but there's no like one reason a show doesn't get greenlit. There's no one example of a show not making it all the way, even to that pilot greenlight. Lots of things happen in development, either from an internal standpoint or an external standpoint.
I will also say that, like, as your executives for the creators here that are asking that question, we want the show to move forward. We're doing everything in our power to make that show, to make your show. And, Emily was talking about pivots. That's a big part of the development process, is you'll hear along the way, okay, well, Big Disney has this thing coming out and it's kind of stepping on this thing. And okay, are we okay making the cat a dog? There's a lot of dogs out there. There's things that come in and out that we have to change along the way in development. But what stays true is your creative North Star, right? And also going back to the purpose, I know I'm beating this drum a lot, but if at the end of the day you want your show to be about something like specific, and it's like this is what it's really about, we can all rally around that. The team can rally around that, and if it's if changing a cat into a dog is not going to shift that creative North Star, then we're good. And I think for when we get further and it's like to the point where, are we going to greenlight this, or are we not going to greenlight, there's so many variables. How did it test? Is there a slot open for this at this time? Do we have to wait? I mean, there's a lot that goes on, but just know that we always have your back, and that we put everything into each project, and we really just want them to shine, and for the whole company to support and get behind it once it is greenlit.
Any advice on how to, and I think this will probably be our last question. Any advice on how to give creative feedback or notes? That's a really good question.
I can go first, Emily.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I like to remember that you are the creative, and I am the 10,000-foot view above executive at Disney that sees all the pieces that are going on, all the projects that are going on. So for me, I want to give, I have distance to the project in some ways, because I did not create it, but I also want to elevate and make sure that everything that you're sharing is clear, because it's not just me you're sharing your creative with, I am then sharing it with the rest of the company, right? So when I'm giving notes, I want to make sure that there's no holes. There's no question when someone gets that document, like, of course we have to make this show. This is great. We want to bulletproof it. So that's my goal when I'm trying to give notes. Sometimes, obviously there's going to be creative differences, and also we each have our own creative sensibility, right? Like, it's a very opinion focused job in a lot of ways. And I think it's helpful just to approach everything as a conversation, right? Like, my note is not final. It's the start of a conversation. If like something isn't working in my eyes, let's talk about it. So that I don't know if that answers, but that's how I generally approach when I give.
I feel the same way. Like, most of my notes, especially early on when we are fleshing out the worlds and the characters and their initial stories, is always why. Like, why are they doing this? Why are they feeling this way? Why are they reacting this way? And it is, as Kitty said, to bulletproof it. Because I think a lot of times when you are, again, with our 10,000-foot view, you as a creator are right on the ground with it. And you are looking at how each beat is being laid out. But we can say like, hey, your main character, like, that's not tracking for their motivation. Like, you know, we've talked about them being like this, but this doesn't seem like something they would do. And again, it's never a, you have to do this, you have to change this, or your show's not getting greenlit. It is a conversation. And on that too, like, I know as an executive, my note is also not always going to be the right note. The way to approach it, if you are a creative person and you're getting that feedback, is to look at the note behind the note. Maybe the note I'm giving or the space I'm giving the note isn't exactly the right thing to address. But if I'm giving a note, if I'm confused, if I'm a reader being confused, it's kind of a signal to say like, okay, maybe it's not this, but something about this moment or something about this character just isn't quite working. And how can we adjust it so it's kind of on track again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think was that our last one?
I think it is. And we're almost at 5 o'clock.
Oh my goodness.
Well, thank you everybody for attending today, for asking wonderful questions, and just being here over Zoom.
Yeah, thank you guys. And we hope you enjoy the rest of CTN. I believe we have some more TVA panels coming up. We may have a slide for that just to make sure you guys can see the schedule. But we've got a lot of fun stuff lined up. Oh, for tomorrow. Okay, great. Long story on short form at Disney Television Animation at 11 a.m. 2 p.m. is Tuning In, Powering Your Animation Career and Gaining Visibility Through Social Media. And then on Friday, we have at 2 p.m. The Art of the Ghost and Molly McGee.
Yeah.
So check them out. But thank you guys so much for attending. Thank you for all the great questions. We hope this was a helpful panel for you. And we look forward to seeing your pitches once they're ready and you have a rep and you have some experience, or you just want to meet with us. We're looking forward to it. So we wish you all the best and good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.